welcome back. Today's theme is Heroes of the Viz because we have two speakers with us. We have Kayleen. Where's Kayleen? Kayleen is over there. So Kayleen will be giving a talk about using Tableau Prep in your daily workflow. And Shazeera will be is based in Switzerland, so she's dialing in virtually to give us a session on what she did in Tableau Conference. So the session is pretty interesting because it talks about how she uses comics storytelling techniques to do storytelling in business dashboards. So it's a very interesting talk. So to kick off, let's see. Wait, I have a clicker. Okay, so like again, we have the WhatsApp community. So if you're not in there, you can scan this QR code and get into that. We usually have our announcement over there, like the upcoming events, or if there's anything that Tableau is announcing or releasing, we'll put it there as well. Okay. If you don't get the QR code, you can just approach any of us. So any of us meaning this one. So this is done by who? You or so Phyllis put our pictures through ChatGPT because today's theme is about superheroes. So she kind of have a prompt that goes, what prompt do you use? Just
I thought you all were editing.
Oh, we did edit it. We just take it for it is. Yeah, so another tip when you're using AI, make sure that you verify your sources and everything. So this is a picture of us. So I'm Louis. I have here with me Aloysius, Phyllis, and Wenbin. All four of us are the co-leads for the Singapore Talk. So if you are new to here, because I see a lot of new faces today, you can look for us anytime if you need help for anything related to Tableau, right? Okay, so today's agenda, we have a couple of things. We're going to be doing a recap of Tableau Conference this year, which happened in April. We'll have our favorite tips from Tableau Conference, which is done by Phyllis and Wenbin. And then we'll do we'll do a section on Shazeera first, on the comics Reimagined, and then Kayleen will take us through wrapping up with Tableau Prep. Okay, so basic housekeeping. So this is the timeline we are now at. We are in June. So currently, what other things that are happening in June is also the Outlier Conference. So I think it ends today. But don't worry, there is a YouTube channel that has a lot of their previous talks, right? So you can access it through this QR code. This is for 2024. I'm sure they're going to be releasing the 2025 videos probably in the next month or so. And it's very interesting. It's not entirely Tableau focused. It's more on data visualization on the whole. So it talks about things on like principles, psychology, data storytelling, design principles, and so on and so forth. So it's very interesting if you're looking to, for maybe industries that are interested in journalism or whatnot. There's also very interesting talks in there. All right. The next things that are coming up, we'll probably have the next meetup in August, September. We'll celebrate National Day a little bit, or post-National Day, we'll see. And then we'll do some preparation work for people who are interested in doing IronViz this year, because I know some of you guys have approached us to say that you are interested. So, try to collate some tips and tricks from past winners and whatnot, so that you can prepare for that. And then we'll do a year-end wrap-up in November, right? So, okay, let me see if Shazeera is around. Okay, if Shazeera is not around yet, Shaz, are you around?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. You're not on the big screen, so it's fine. Okay, I can stop sharing and I can share your screen.
That's better, I think.
Let's see. Oh, now you're on a big screen. Right.
Okay.
So this is Shazeera.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, Shazeera, you want to do a short intro to everyone?
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see all of you in Singapore. I'm going home in August, and I'm actually looking forward to do a short visit to Singapore because I'm from Malaysia. So, as you know, my name is Shazeera. I am a Malaysian born, currently living in Switzerland. I was a lawyer, a human rights advocate for the last 18 years of my professional career before I actually transitioned into data analytics and now working with a digital bank called Swissquote. I think we also have a branch in Singapore, Swiss Quotes. And on top of that, I'm also a comic artist. I've published some work and done some exhibitions in Southeast Asia as well as Europe. And yeah, looking forward to share with you my passion in data and comics.
Thank you, Shazeera. So I first met Shazeera in TC. I think this year was the first year we met, right? Like we've been chatting online. Yeah. So it's really
Yes.
nice to meet people from the same region. So this year we have, I think, 9 of us, Singapore and Malaysia. So hopefully we can double that number next year. We'll see. All right, Shazeera, so over to you to do your session.
Thank you, Louis. Again, thank you so much to Tableau User Group Singapore for inviting me. And I'm sure that all of you are really great Tableau authors, enthusiasts. And even if you are new to Tableau, the community, the data fam has a lot of resources and people were always willing to support and offer their expertise to you. And that's, I think, the beauty of data fam. Anyway, before I start, I just want to caution you that what I'm going to be presenting today is not just necessarily applicable to Tableau, but also data visualization in general. But as someone who uses Tableau day in, day out on a daily basis, of course, I'm bringing in all of these techniques into how I create and build my reports in Tableau. If there's one thing that I want you to take away from my presentation today is really that it's really important for you to open up your eyes and be inspired by different mediums, different fields, and different ways of actually telling your stories with data on Tableau. And I hope that you will have fun and enjoy my presentation. So I'll share now my presentation. Apparently, I cannot share it. Okay. Can you see it? Yeah?
You can see it.
All right, awesome. So I'm just going to put it in a slideshow. So I am someone who is very much into comics. Can I see anyone in the audience who also read comics daily or regularly? No? No one here read comics?
I think only me only. The rest too shy already.
Too shy?
There's a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of us.
Okay, not bad, not bad. But yeah, I see there's a lot of benefits and added value of reading comics actually. And there are even research and scientific findings proving that the way the story is told as a comic, the paneling, the accompanying text, the visual really helps a lot in terms of understanding a story, in terms of retention of idea, retention of concepts. So there's a lot of benefits in reading comics. And so we also see how the purpose of comics actually also evolved over the years. So it started off to be very commercial, very superhero-ish in the sense of you have the Marvel comics, you have the DC comics, the Superman, the Batman. But then when people realize that there's a lot of benefits and value of telling stories in the way comics are telling their stories, then people start using comics to sort of tell different stuff or different ideas. For instance, people write memoirs as comics. People try to explain some complex scientific idea with comics. And the one at the top is, you see the woman in the hijab, that's my comic, where I was trying to actually document a testimony of a victim of inhuman treatment in prison, and how I tried to use comic to document it. So as you can see, the evolution of the purpose and function of comics. So just to share that this doesn't come out of the blue or just, out of nowhere. I've always been a comic artist. And for the last 10 years in Switzerland, I've been, doing different types of comics, long form comics, short cartoons to sort of convey different messages about human rights, about, themes around communities. So this is how I tell my story before and how I brought it to Tableau. So for today, I want to start off with a very quick survey. So I did this survey in the Tableau Conference, at the Tableau Conference. And the idea was to get a sense of who you are as a Tableau author, what are your needs, and what are your obstacles and challenges in telling stories on Tableau. So I would like you to scan. Of course, it's voluntary. It's not mandatory for you to do it. But if you are curious about, what you're going to see next, then if you can, do scan the QR code that is now showing in the presentation, and then answer the 2 questions. They are very brief. They are very simple. And also, this is, my way of also getting to know you over here. Oh, sorry. Are you doing it?
Yeah, everyone's on their phone, so.
Okay. Okay, sorry. Also in Switzerland, it's in the middle of the day, so I'm still working. So I'm trying to also respond to some messages. All right. So I assume that all of you have answered the question. Let's see. I have to stop sharing, I guess. Guess so. Oh, what happened? I'm sorry about that. A bit of a... Okay. This is not a good practice because this is a pie chart with a lot of slices. I think it's more than, okay, it's 5 slices. So you all have answered the questions. There are 2 basic questions. The first one is, what is the most needed skill right now for you to
I think
improve?
we don't see your screen.
Cannot see my screen now? Okay,
Yeah,
what happened? Sorry about that. Let's do it again. Okay. Is it good? Okay,
yes.
let's go. Right, so let's see the first one. The first one is about your skills. What do you all need to improve your Tableau dashboard? So I see here that there's a huge percentage dedicated to the ability to assess and understand your stakeholder needs. And then followed by the ability to guide an audience through a data-driven story. Okay, this is quite common, something that I heard a lot from others as well. And then Thai at 3rd place is both the ability to construct and design dashboard that are accessible, and then followed by the ability to create compelling and effective visual representations. So this is basically what you see as your needs. Let's see your challenges next. So for the biggest challenges that you find in your Tableau dashboarding now, the 42.3% saying that dashboard is overloaded with unnecessary data. So I assume everyone wants everything from you and you put everything in your report. And then followed by 34.5% for poorly managed data, leading to data inaccuracy and inconsistency. Sometimes this has nothing to do with Tableau. This is about your data pipeline, about your data lake, about how your data is being systematized in the organization, but still it has an impact on how you do your reports on Tableau. And I just want to see the last one again, tie at the last place are two things: data that devoid of crucial context and just bring more confusion, followed by poorly defined metrics. Right. Thank you so much for participating in this very quick exercise. So now I get a sense a bit about what actually you find as your obstacles and your need in telling your stories. Now, I did the same exercise, the same survey wherever I go. And in the end, what I did was I was trying to reimagine your needs and the obstacle that you face as superheroes, as characters themselves. So now I would like to introduce you to your needs that you just choose or opted for just now in the form of superheroes, as well as the obstacles that you mentioned in the form of villains or supervillains. Let's see how they look like and their background story. So for those who recently was telling me that you struggle in reading your stakeholders. So the superhero that I was reimagining was a superhero called the Empathizer. It was also inspired by my own cat. But the idea was this particular superhero has the ability to decipher any kind of requirements, no matter how difficult it is, almost having the telepathic ability to understand the stakeholders or people who wanted to understand their numbers. But isn't it great if you have such superpower? The next superhero that I reimagined was what I call Lady Axis. Now, Lady Axis is the superhero that actually can create and visualize complex data sets using the most effective charts. So she is actually the master when it comes to using insightful and impactful charts. Again, we struggle with this sometimes, but isn't it great if we have the ability to choose the most effective charts to tell the stories that we want to? The third one is something or someone that I call Dedomena. So Dedomena is actually the guardian of the source of truth, I would say, where his role is to govern and ensure that all the visualizations reflect pure, good quality data. So as you can see in our work, it is very important to make sure that the data that we're working with is of good quality, managed in a way that is systematic and not corrupted. So this is Dedomena's superpower in general. Not the last, we still have more, but what I would say I call the white space. Now, the white space is really inspired by our need to actually have a better way of designing our dashboards, decluttering it, choosing the right colors, choosing the most accessible color out there. So this is white space superpower, the ability to create impeccable dashboards that are, suitable and accessible for the audience or for the stakeholders that need the dashboard. The next one is Nexus. Now, I put Nexus last, but she's actually quite important because all of you were talking about some of the struggle to tell stories that are guided by, by data or data-driven storytelling. So Nexus here is the data weaver or the master storyteller. And so by bringing in the right context, insightful stories, her role is actually to foster deeper understanding and provide all the crucial context needed from the data so that it can empower people to actually take actions with the data that they saw. So this is actually, one of the most important, I think, to me, aspect or foundational aspect of data storytelling. So I'll quickly go to the supervillain. Now, the first supervillain, as you said just now, some of you are, have trouble or struggle with how the metrics are being defined. So here is the supervillain behind it. He's called the metric madness. And he is actually the one who, create confusions, bring in all the wrong metrics or KPIs on the dashboard. The next one is another supervillain that was really inspired by the inability or the struggle we have to bring the right context to your dashboard. and his name is Void Obscura. So again, his superpower is just to disrupt and to ensure that there's no clarity and understanding to your Tableau dashboards. Now, I also wonder if you know these characters in your real life, or you have met them in real life as well, because sometimes when I was presenting this, sometimes people also say, I know this person, I know this person, I work with them. So sometimes it's worth also thinking if these characters exist in real life. Chaos, and chaos is the antithesis to Lady Axis, in the sense of, he is the one who's responsible to create charts or to use charts on the dashboard that is not effective and not really helpful in telling the right stories. In fact, by using the wrong charts, then you are only going to lead people or mislead people into believing that the data means something else. So that is chaos superpower. Code error is the opposite, of course, of Dedomena. And his job is basically to just crash your dashboard with poorly governed data, inaccurate data, and so on. So actually, she's inspired by my own daughter, who kind of feel proud that she's part of the supervillain team. And last but not least is overload. So I saw just now how you say that one of the biggest struggle working with the dashboards on Tableau is really about how it's cramped and full of data that sometimes are not needed. And that is the job of overload. So basically, overload is all about cramping your data, cramping your dashboards with all the data that in the end of the day, you can't even make a decision or arrive at a decision because of how confusing or how overload your dashboard is. So this is Team Supervillain. So I thought it was interesting and quite playful to actually think of your needs and challenges as superheroes and supervillains, fitting nicely into the theme of today's talk. But then the whole, fascination and passion of using comics in storytelling has always been there in our community. So now I'm just going to share with you a couple of examples of other Tableau authors in the community that have used comic in the most effective way to tell their stories. And not necessarily business-driven stories, but personal stories and sometimes even stories about the comics. So let's see, who are they? The first one is Nicole Classen. So Nicole Classen is also a Tableau visionary, just like Louise. And she did a very wonderful story about climate change and women in business, and presented it in literally like a comic story. So go to Tableau Public and have a look at how she did it, because I think she used all the techniques really in a way that tells a very engaging story about the data that she used. The second one is Robert Roos, and he's actually telling the data that you normally get from Salesforce, the data on Tableau that you always use, the Superstore data. And he actually bring in like the old school type of comic storytelling into his design and his dashboard. And it looks really good. And this is also another way where you can tell your story. Of course, we need to also bear in mind about what is the best practice and also the policy of your company when it comes to branding and building these dashboards. But as you see later, it's not about literally using the comic design into your work, but rather the techniques and also the spirit of the comic storytelling. The last one I find interesting, but I cannot detect where she is or who she is. She just put her name as Melissa on Tableau Public. Is there any Melissa in the audience in the Singapore? If there's any Melissa in Singapore, please, I just want to say how wonderful the dashboard that she created, which is about cancer among women. And she also effectively, in terms of color, in terms of paneling, in terms of the charts, everything was really great. I can't really share with you more about her dashboard. So you have to type Melissa comics Cancer among women on Tableau Public, and then maybe you will be led to her dashboard. So these are some of the ones that I find really stood out. And of course, you can find so many dashboards out there that are inspired by comics, not only by the style, the design, the approach, the colors, but also as the content or the data that that they use. So basically, like you see, they're using visualizing data on the colors of Tintin, trying to tell the stories about the progress and development of manga in Japan. So as you can see, comics has been very inspiring in the data farm community. So now let's go ahead and look at some of the main comic tools and tips for dashboarding. So basically they are the technique that I use as a comic artist in general, and how I sort of bring them into the way I build my dashboards on Tableau. So we're looking here at techniques, we're looking at principles instead of calculations, instead of, the more technicalities of Tableau in that regard. So I want to quote this particular comic artist, Scott McCloud, because he's a strong advocate of actually bridging all the different types of visual storytelling and saying that, actually there is a common understanding, there is a commonality between all types of visual storytelling. And if you see from his statement here, clearly, it also can be used to describe how you are building your dashboard or how you are building, your analysis on Tableau. So I guess my answer to this would be yes, they are transferable. And of course, you have to also be mindful in how you're using it. And this is why it's very important to be intentional, to go back to, what you need to do as a data analyst within the context of your company, what the stakeholders want from you. All of that, of course, still are your primary considerations, but then these techniques can be used to enrich your skills and also how you perceive and how you look at your data. Right, now, let's look at the first technique, and I go with the simplest one and the most obvious one. And you will see the superhero that I introduced in the beginning will be accompanying my slides so that you will know how they are contributing to that particular technique, or how they are relevant to that particular technique. So you can see them in all the slides. Now, going back to panel composition. So panel composition is, to me, the most important technique in comic storytelling. And because it's not just about building the boxes. Any of you here, how do you start your building a dashboard? If I can ask any of you. I'm still shy?
Yeah, I think some people are very shy. I think usually how people build dashboards is like with a title, and then you build like the layouts and what KPIs that you want to have in the dashboard. I say that will probably be like the general. Anyone else want to add in?
No?
With a okay, with a Z pattern.
Right. So interestingly, if I draw comics, I would start with storyboarding, right? I would start building the panels and then filling the panels with the scene or the plot that I've already had beforehand, and start thinking about how I want to arrange my story so that it makes sense to the reader. And similarly, when I'm doing my Tableau dashboards, I do the same with a paper and pen as well. I don't immediately start in the dashboard. I know Louis, for instance, use Figma maybe. So Figma is another, another platform that is widely used to prototype and to help with the design of your dashboard. But for me, I'm a paper and pencil person. So I bring out my notebook and I start sketching or drawing the storyboards. And this technique is very much inherent in comic storytelling. The panels also, in a way, is signaling to the reader what you're trying to say. So sometimes you have bigger boxes, bigger panels, just like your dashboard, you put your big angry numbers at the top. The distance between the box also can tell something or hinted on something. So the arrangement of the paneling, the placement, the size and everything helps comic artists to tell their stories. So in the context of, in the context of using that in data storytelling, I see that paneling is very important in giving the backbone to your narrative structure. So when I do prototyping, the same way that I do from comics, I bring it into my Tableau dashboards. It helped me a lot in helping me to arrange the narrative structure of my report. And by doing that, you can then also immediately inform yourself and also your readers what is important, where are your emphasis, and what is the hierarchy of the numbers that you want to see, what is the flow and the progression. So all this actually is really important in contributing to your audience understanding in following the numbers that you are showing in your dashboard. So that's the first one, what I call paneling. Now, the second technique that I find very, very useful in comic storytelling is what I call story pacing. So there are two ways of story pacing when you're drawing comics. The first one is what I would say compression. So compression belongs to the more old school kind of comics. We're talking here about the comics that are issued every week by Marvel or DC, where you can't wait to get the new comic or to buy the new comic the next month or the next week. So because people are just, can't wait to follow the plot or the story, then comic artists also tend to fill in or to include as many stories possible in one episode. So they are compressing it, which means the story pacing is very fast, very quick from one panel to the other. And as you can see, there's a historical reason behind it. But then slowly and gradually, when the format of comics also evolved into cinematic, more longer form like graphic novels or manga, then the comic artist starts to decompress, which means it's not just literally stretching the story. No, it's not about stretching the story, but rather giving space for the story to breathe. Because there's something important about the stories or that particular point where they allow to go a bit more or to linger a bit more. There's a certain emphasis that they want to highlight there. So these are the two types of story pacing that you can find in comics. In fact, because today, but I don't know if you can see it, I just want to show some examples. Like this is from one of my favorite comic artists named Joe Sacco. And he is master of, I think, decompression, trying to bring in the inner monologues of his characters or showing the scene in more detail. And then, of course, another one of my favorite comic artists, I don't know if you heard of this before, Bone. No? Okay. It's fine. So like in this particular one.
We only see your slides, so we can't see what you're
Oh,
sharing.
really? I'm sorry. Okay. Well, what I was showing just now was the different types of compression and decompression. And you can also see on the slide, like the first one, decompression, the story that I wrote, I give more attention to the character to build the suspense and to build the story. And then when I compress something, it's basically just making sure that the story flow is more quicker and easier to understand as well. So how do we apply this to our data storytelling? I see that you can use decompression in providing context and depth. So for instance, decompression actually allow you to get deeper or get even more granular into a specific data point. An example of a case or a use case of how I use this is that sometimes the numbers that I want to show to people, they are outliers, they are higher than usual, and raise a lot of questions. And so normally I would pay attention to those numbers by adding a bit more of story to it or context to it. So I put in another chart maybe in a tooltips, I put in some annotations, or I even create a separate a visual for it. to better explain the outlier. So when I do that, it's basically me trying to decompress that particular point, because it's very important for people to understand what's going on with that number. So in that sense, decompression really helped me to build a better narrative around data that looks strange or weird, or maybe require further understanding or questions. And also to do it in a way that allows your audience to understand that there is a certain importance, or there's a certain reason why you're highlighting it. So this is where I use decompression. Now, compression, I think maybe you can already even, guess it, is really about focusing on the key points. So if I want to highlight critical insights, especially if I'm doing a report for executive management, or for people who have no time to look at how the numbers evolve, or to look at how, the numbers go up and down, the percentage of the differences, then I know that I have to build the dashboard in a way that can give them a glimpse of the number quickly, and also help them make the decision within the time frame that they needed. So here is where I use compression, because to me, when you compress your dashboard, for instance, here I show an example of how I do it. So basically the big angry numbers, very clear KPIs, not to declutter the dashboard, because then it's simple and easy to understand for my stakeholders. So this is how, you can bring in compression into your dashboards. The next technique that is quite interesting for me, I think, from comic storytelling, is about building the characters. Comic storytelling is all about characters. It's very character driven, because the comic artists want you to root for the characters. They want you to follow the story till the end. So this is why there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of work around, building the background story to the character, explaining the origin of the character, because all this help you to understand the personalities, the relationships, or the purpose of why the superhero, for instance, take a certain action or a certain decision in the story or in the plot. So character driven is one of another one of the more important technique in comic storytelling. But then in the context of us building dashboards, how do you think we use character driven technique, or the technique of building characters in our storytelling? Anyone? Is it too late over there that you guys were like, and I am asking questions, which is, you're like, we're not in the mood to answer questions, Shazeera. But what do you think? How do you think you use character-driven approach or technique in your storytelling, in your Tableau dashboards?
Maybe audience?
Remember, this is about the dashboard. So.
Anyone?
Something with a
personal story?
Okay, not so far. Not so far. We can,
the level rather than wide scale, but more individualistic view.
Personalized view.
Very big support of
I didn't get the gentleman what he said, but
So I think he's driving at a point where the dashboard is a more personalized view for the audience rather than like for white audience.
okay. So it's a very interesting approach, because I receive a lot of different feedback and questions about character driven. You can also say that, it is quite close to what you were saying about personalizing the dashboard. But then the question is, personalizing what, right? Personalizing who? It is a business dashboard at the end of the day. So to give you an example, for instance, like in my work, sometimes I'm asked to tell the stories of female traders to understand our female investors. And it's not just about putting a filter, the gender filter, and saying, okay, now we have a female and male gender filter. And this dashboard now is telling the stories about a female trader. Not really. So character-driven technique is also about actually building a view or KPIs or metrics that are relevant to the human that you want to bring out or you want to highlight in your report. So in this context, to tell the stories of female traders and to understand the challenges that they face as a trader or investor, then I also have to bring in a bit more of the uniqueness of their story, which means the data that are particular to female or women investors. So you sort of build the KPIs around the character so that to ensure you are portraying the right data, the accurate information about the human that you want to bring out in the dashboard. It can be anyone, okay? So I'm just giving you an example of one of the example, because now in the business of what you're doing, it doesn't matter, what type of enterprise or subject matter, there's always this interest to understand better your customers, their satisfaction, their behavior, and all this actually has a strong correlation with character-driven technique. So it's not just about bringing the filter, but also to build a story or to build a report that can directly inform you about that particular client demographic that you want to look at. So that's how I bring in the character-driven technique into my data storytelling. And I know that you can also say, what's wrong with just having filters on the dashboards and then helps you? Well, yes and no. Sometimes, depending on what your stakeholder want, and whether they want to have a granular understanding of the person or the client or the demographic that you're working on, then perhaps you still have to do a separate report for it. But of course, it's open to discussion as well, what it means to have all these reports available for your stakeholder. So the last technique can be a bit controversial and also can be a bit interesting, because one of the technique that we use in in drawing comics is the use of onomatopoeia or visual cues. So basically, when you read a comic, you see all the kaboom, the sounds, the speech bubbles, the sound effects, they have been turned into visuals that you see in the comic. And you wonder, is it possible to bring this into your data storytelling? Wouldn't it make your data storytelling to be silly or, will not be taken seriously? So again, this is not about literally bringing that into your dashboard, but really looking at the spirit of it and also how can you bring those elements of onomatopoeia or visual cues into your reports. So here are some ideas and suggestions and also thoughts. So the first thing that come to mind is, of course, the use of visual cue can increase engagement. It is a bit of a novelty, but I even received some questions from people who say, why not when the profit is low, you give a certain sound, or when the profit is high, you give a certain sound, or a certain visual cue to make people understand that this is when the profit is decreasing and when the profit is increasing. And I say, yeah, of course, that it's possible as well to do that, especially when you are maybe building a report for people who have a certain fear with data or just use data for the first time and you want to use it as a form of education. I don't see anything wrong with that. In terms of accessibility, it also could be interesting because then the use of sounds, the use of visual cues can also help make complex data more accessible to the wider audience. So again, depending on, the level of reporting, depending on who the reports are for, I feel that these techniques, especially the ones that I just presented now, can be used to increase engagement and also interest in the data that you are visualizing. So we are still to find good examples from that. I'm still to find any good examples from that. I did a data sonification project on Tableau. You can check it on my Tableau public. but that's really like composing music using data and then bringing it to Tableau. So again, there are different ways and that you can experiment, and I always encourage people to be as creative as you can, because already in the office you have to day in, day out, focus on the work that you want to do. It's always great and helpful to have a side project where you can really cultivate and harness your curiosity and creativity. So here are the takeaway points for my presentation today. The first one, no matter which technique you choose or you want to use in your future data visualizations or dashboards, be intentional and prioritize the key insights. And I always think that decompress is a very, very nice way for you to actually highlight and emphasize some anomalies or outliers or complex data in your dashboard. The third one is highlight the people behind the numbers. I think there is a great trend of understanding more and more of the people behind the profit, behind the revenue. And so character-driven technique can also be useful in that regard. Amplify your insights at the right moment to catch their attention. This is really building on the spirit of onomatopoeia, where you have to know when you need to highlight or enhance the perspective or the focus on your data. And regardless of what you think about yourself, you say, okay, maybe I'm not good yet at data storytelling, maybe I need more help from others. You are actually your own superhero of your own dashboard adventure. And so never stop learning, never stop being inspired by different mediums, different kind of storytellings in the work that you do.
Thank you so much, Shazeera. Wait, she left it, yeah. Oh, wait. I said thank you, and then you left the meeting.
I left. No, I didn't. I don't know what happened. Oh my God. Okay, sorry about that. So I'll just quickly conclude my presentation today. So if you have a Medium account, the platform, you can also check out my blog and see the comic version of the presentation that I do today. If you love to follow the ideas and the notes, get a note from this presentation. So you can go to my blog and check out the comic version of the presentation. And of course, there's also, all the sources and references that I use to build this presentation for you. You can also check them out at the end of my presentation. I think maybe Louis will share the presentation with you afterwards. So yeah, you can check some of them as well if you are interested to learn more about comic storytelling. So with that, I want to say thank you again for the opportunity to share with you my passion in comics and also my passion in data storytelling. And happy to answer any questions or to listen to your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Shazeera. I think this is really insightful, and it's a very fun way of visualizing or understanding the concepts behind building better dashboards. Does anyone have any questions for Shazeera before we let her go?
Maybe I can ask.
I think maybe she cannot.
Just now you mentioned that you have not found any example for the last method of building a dashboard based on storytelling. But I'm quite interested if you have to know if you have any examples for character-driven types of methodology.
Thank you for the question. Wait, hold on. I'm just gonna stop sharing, I think. Thank you for the question. So I have an example, but it's an internal dashboard that I do for my own company. So I cannot share with you. But so basically, for instance, we have to look closely at some of specific clients. So when you look at a specific client, for instance, in my case, we would like to dedicate or have a separate report or dashboard about the client. This is nothing like the other, like I know that sometimes we build different dashboards for them, but then there's a lot of interest, for instance, to understand women investors, women investors that are investing with us, for instance. And so we actually dedicate one report to women investors. And it totally require some additional and different KPIs because, for instance, you want to understand when women investors are trading in general, right? Because they might trade different times of the day because they're working full time. They have to, look after their family. So we also, have to look at the data and understand their trading patterns, behavior, the revenue that they generate, the assets under management that they bring. So all of those elements that, could be a bit more general or ambiguous or a bit more common because there's no need to build a more granular perspective, then you have to understand the client. So we also have to look at the churn numbers, how active they are and all that. But the idea is that, yes, you when you build a character-driven dashboard, to me, it's not just about, like a dimension, but really understanding how the dashboard you build can bring an added value for you to make decisions about this particular demographic. So I haven't had the chance to build a dashboard that I can openly share yet around that. But now, since you asked the question, I wonder if I should build a business dashboards about female investors globally. And then we see how we use character-driven technique in that. So thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we are short of a bit of time. So if there's any more questions, you can send it over to us and we'll send it over to Shazeera. So thank you again, Shazeera, for dropping by to share your insights. I think this is very interesting technique. And you can stay around to listen to the rest of the presentation or you can go back to work.
Well, yeah, I will keep it open, but I will, disappear. Thank you so much again to everyone who listened to my presentation, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening with the other presentations.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I'll do a quick recap of Tableau Conference. So this year's theme at Tableau Conference is a lot about Tableau Next. And earlier on I said that this year we have a bigger group. So we have 9 of us over there. I think we have Wihan, Maya, Priscilla, Spencer. I can't remember some of the names, but there's 9 of us here. Hopefully next year we get double the number. So if you are thinking about going to Tableau Conference next year, maybe this is the time to start talking to your bosses and everything. But it's been, I think you can probably hear it from Maya and the rest of the folks that went with us. It's a very enriching journey, and you learn a lot from the people and the speakers every day, and get inspired by the IronViz finalists as well. So, like I said, Ryan Ate, the CEO of Tableau, opened up the keynote with this slide saying that we are in an era of change. And what he means by that is that traditionally, our analyst role is evolving, right? There's a lot of feelings of uncertainty around how AI is going to integrate into our work. But generally, this is what he shared about, the many jobs of analysts. These days, analysis is not just about crunching numbers. You have things like, how do you build, translate insights into actions, dashboard layouts, mockups, integrations, embedding, and so on and so forth. There's so many steps involved in being an analyst. And the role of AI, as he kind of said, is to help to accelerate our jobs, right? So things like data prep, things like, initial exploration of data, cleaning the data connection and stuff like that. So all this, we want to try to rely on AI a little bit more to help us simplify the kind of like the common things that we do, and so that we can unlock ourselves to do better things, right? So the core of it is they are promoting Tableau next. I'm just going to give a very high level, presentation about Tableau next, but Ben is over there. So if you want to ask more about Tableau next, you can go to him. All right. And if I'm butchering anything, please correct me. They basically showcase a number of new tools together with Tableau next. The first one is Data Pro, which is basically a in-window kind of AI-assisted calculation thingy. So you can write, a prompt saying that you wanna get a calculation that calculates, ROI year over year and stuff like that. You may not know how to create that using LLD, and this would actually help you in getting to that step. And then the next one that, whoops. Okay, hold on.
Okay, so we lost a bit of audio there on the day itself, but this is a re-recording to fill in the audio gaps. So for Tableau Next Concierge, basically what this is a prompt conversational AI within the desktop itself or within web. So for example, you say, I want to create a line chart that shows year-over-year comparison, then it would help you to create the charts and the necessary KPIs and stuff like that. The next one is Inspector. So Inspector is a integrated agentic agent that you can integrate various functions within the Salesforce ecosystem. So you have Slack, in this case, showing an example that you can actually integrate the Tableau dashboard in there. And what you could do is set a threshold for Tableau Inspector to actually monitor. So if it exceeds that threshold, it gives you a alert, and from there you can actually integrate further into the agentic by adding a workflow that helps you to increase the budget or something, and you can approve directly from the Slack channel itself. The next one we have is the marketplace, which is kind of like a centralized area or drive that you can hold all the templates, all your data models, all your schematic models that you can share across the organization. So it's a very useful way to get everything in one place. So all in all, the key takeaways is Tableau Next is envisioned as an ecosystem around the different action layers, semantic layers, data layers, to give that additional experience across all the different software within Tableau itself, which hopefully would help you to simplify your processes. And if you need more information, you can download the Agentic AI Blueprint from Tableau themselves, which is free, so you don't have to pay for anything. I remember there was a question from the audience about the cost of agentic AI, or rather the cost of Tableau Next. Unfortunately, you need to be on cloud and you need to be subscribed to Tableau Plus in order to use all of these features. So moving forward, what was also announced at Tableau Conference is the new Tableau Community Slack. This is a community-wide workspace that anyone can join basically. So you can scan the QR code over there and join the Slack workspace. And over there, you have different channels like you would in like forums. So you can actually share your viz there and ask for feedback. Or if you have any questions that you want to answer, technical questions or viz questions or whatnot, you can also put it there. So it's a very collaborative workspace. I will be there as well as some of the other ambassadors and visionaries and all. So feel free to use this workspace as an additional resource for you to get your answers. All right. So the next section, I want to cover a little bit on the devs on stage. I will not cover all of the features because these features don't have any release date. So these are all work in progress, but it's very exciting to see what the devs have planned ahead. So to start off, for those that are using Tableau Prep, I think later Kayleen will actually show you the challenges of using Tableau Prep in terms of it's very dependent. The performance is very dependent on your PC. So if you don't have enough RAM and stuff like that, it won't be able to process huge amount of data volumes. So Tableau has acknowledged that. And what they're going to do is they're going to implement a solution that allows you to do in-database processing. So all of that transformation actually gets pushed back to the SQL that is being put into the Tableau Prep. So this would help streamline the information or streamline the data that is being put into Tableau Prep, so you'll make things a lot faster. The next one is actually the custom Python script. So now you can actually integrate custom Python scripts to actually do further analysis, do further modeling and stuff like that, right? So for the Tableau desktop experience, you have a new spatial parameter, which is called a viewport. And what this does is that you can select a specific area of a geographical map, and it filters down the data points that are within that area. So I think this is probably very interesting for the SIA folks as well as the MOE guys, because they've been looking at geographical data within Singapore itself. So this will be very interesting. And also what they are adding is the, like the previous version, we had the custom viz extension. So over here, what they have extended that is into the analytics pane. So now you can use custom viz extension on the table, cell, or pane calculations. So this would help drive even deeper analysis using the custom viz extensions that are available in the market. So I know most of you are very familiar with Tristan's work. So this is another way that you can actually further your analysis. The other thing that actually showcased was the Show Me Instant Viz. And what this is actually, if you open up Tableau Desktop, you have the Show Me button. And this is where people get, you get recommendations of what are the fields that are required to build, let's say, a line chart or a bar chart and stuff like that. They're adding a button there to actually allow Tableau to automatically select the measures and dimensions for you. So this will help you, one less click to actually create the charts, and you can easily just swap them around. The previous edition also added the custom color palettes, but actually for that you need to import it in a JSON or edit the preference file. So they have integrated that experience within Tableau natively. So now within Tableau, you can actually select the colors using the eyedropper. You can even use AI to generate a color palette for you based on like a prompt, right? So this is, and I think one of the most popular or feedback was this, which is the rounded corners. So traditionally for you to do rounded corners, you need to create a image in Figma or PowerPoint and kind of import it as an image within Tableau itself. Or you could, use a annotation layer to actually do that. But now you can actually, or rather what's coming up is that you can actually do it natively in Tableau. So you can, likewise on how you actually set the inner padding and outer padding, now you can actually set the rounded corners as well. So that is really exciting for most people. The next one we have is a feature that should have been there from day one, is in Tableau Server you have a recycle bin now, right? So you can, if you accidentally delete something, you can actually restore them. So that's a nice touch. And I think this is probably more interesting for the admin users because you can actually look in more granularity on the interaction event. So I think previously what we only be able to use to do is the number of views, number of users and stuff like that. But now you can actually see, how many people click on certain things, how many people download the data. So that's really interesting. For those who are on cloud, there's also a new integration with Google. You can actually import the charts directly from Tableau and also use agentic AI for that as well. So that's quite exciting for the cloud users. Okay, then the next part I'm going to talk about is IronViz. This year IronViz is very interesting because the data set that they use is also quite questionable because it was about the flight data and how wildlife has kind of damaged flights over the years. And, people were flying back after IronViz after that. So it was kind of a very weird data choice. But yeah, it is very interesting because all three of the participants, they focus a lot on the safety. So for example, the winner, Bo McCready, he focused on this event in US, which is called the Miracle of the Hudson. And what it was is there was a plane that left and got hit by a flock of geese. And they had engine failure, but the pilot managed to land the plane safely on the river despite no other landing spots. But that marked the kind of the changing point for the aviation industry to make a lot of changes to the safety and everything. So I think for Bo, he actually focused on like the two eras, so before and after. For Ryan, on the top left, top right corner, he focused on a very interesting story, which was about the birds and how they felt safe flying through a sky that's full of planes. So it was from the bird's point of view. So it's very interesting. And Catherine actually did, an analysis on where, the trends of the damage on the airplanes have changed over time. So all three of them focus a lot on safety, which I think helped to make people feel a little bit safer flying back as well. I also did a interview with all three of them on Secrets of the Viz. So if you're interested, this is a 10 to 20 minutes interview that covers, their inspiration, their design processes, and their challenges. It's available on YouTube as well as if you're, looking at audio only, it is on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. So you can scan the QR code and, view it from there. Also, yesterday we launched a new initiative for games like this, which is SuperViz Pro, which is about visualizing data for Sonic, Zelda, and Super Mario. So if you're a fan of either of those characters, feel free to join us. What better way to practice your data visualization than to engage in a fun way? So this is kind of like the mantra of games like this. So I will pass the mic over to T, who will give us an introduction on a new initiative from Viz for Social Good.
Hello, hi everyone. My name is Tiho. I am a Tableau ambassador and I am also a volunteer and ambassador for Viz for Social Good in the past 5 years. So today I would like to update you on a new journey for Viz for Social Good from being Viz for Social Good to data change makers. As we know, data can drive real change. And for the journey from Viz for Social Good to today, data change maker, it's been a long journey. So Viz for Social Good was founded in 2016 as a community project. And we have more than 1,000 volunteers all over the world, and we have supported more than 50 charities or nonprofit organizations with their data needs. So we help them to analyze the data, visualize the data to meet their goals and their objectives. They had to raise funds to get more volunteers or to raise awareness about their organization. So in 2025, Viz for Social Good becomes data change makers. So let me show you a few examples of the work that the volunteers from Viz for Social Good has done. So the first one is by Sam Parsons. He visualizes the contribution of the volunteers from Viz for Social Good, and this is a very powerful visualization. The next one is video volunteers. So we supported this nonprofit organization in India to empower their community voices. And for this project, Downey and Wenchak Fund, we supported this organization based in Canada. For this visualization by our volunteer Victor Munoz, it is a physicalization project. So Victor actually used actual leaves, autumn leaves, to create a heat map to raise awareness about climate change and global warming. And for this project, we partner with Noise Solution based in the UK, and they use music. They teach music to the children at risk to help them find their inner peace and their happiness again. So this is a very meaningful project. So the question is, why now and why this? Why do we want to go for such transformation now? So first of all, after COVID, we realized that the social organizations, the nonprofit organizations, even face more challenges with data due to limited resources and budget. Secondly, we want to build lasting capacity, not just one-time deliverables. And thirdly, we continue to emphasize on collaboration and transformation. So, our new way of working and offerings will go beyond the database, and we want to offer more services from the global community to enable the data capacity for the nonprofits. So if you look at the first row of the yellow boxes here, that refers to the top layer of data strategy, data road mapping, data literacy. The second layer with the blue boxes here refers to the data quality assessment, data cleaning and preparation, data analysis and insights. And lastly, the red boxes are data visualization and storytelling, impact measurement and reporting. So it's kind of an end-to-end services that we want to offer to the nonprofit organizations. Our mission, we want to empower mission-driven organizations with the tools, knowledge, and support to use data confidently and ethically. Our vision is to create a world where every change maker has the data capacity to achieve bold and transformative impact. The values that guide how we show up in every project, every partnership, and every step forward are collaboration, impact, equity, empowerment, and integrity. So we want to stand with change makers such as mission-driven organizations, volunteers around the world, and partners. Our approach is we continue to collaborate with organizations to define the data needs. And we lead volunteer-powered projects with expert guidance. So this is something different from Viz for Social Good. In Viz for Social Good, the volunteer contributes individually. But for Data Change Maker, we want to have experts who can guide the volunteers with their expertise and with the experience. So in a way, the volunteer can both contribute and learn at the same time. And we want to offer consulting services for deeper and lasting impact. And finally, we turn data into stories that drive change. So our first project is coming up soon. It's called Boomi, right? And there will be a kick-off meeting on July 11, 2025. So Boomi is one of India's largest volunteer-driven nonprofits, and we want to help them turn data into action. We want to support Boomi's mission to educate over 150,000 children and mobilize over 200,000 volunteers for social good. Do check out our website, datachangemakers.org, tableauprep.org/projects to know more about this project and sign up for the kickoff meeting. The founders are two very familiar faces in the DataViz community, Frederick Ferry, based in Australia, and Vanitha Lucas, based in Canada. So be part of the change. Connect with us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and sign up the newsletter on datachangemakers.org so that you can be informed of the newest project. And with that, thank you for your time.
Thanks, T, for sharing this initiative. This is a great way to give back to the community by participating in using data for social good. So do reach out to T or any of the socials to get started. Next up, we have Kayleen to share with us how she uses Tableau Prep in her day-to-day and how it has simplified her ETL process. Unfortunately, we've met with some technical difficulties on the day, so we lost a bit of audio here. But basically, Kayleen was giving us an intro about herself, a Tableau academic ambassador, and now an intern over at Mighty Jacks. The first section of her slides was a little walkthrough on the UI in Tableau Prep, as well as the different input nodes that you can bring into the software. Following this, she'll be showing you a demo.
Okay. So I also enlarge this in the meantime. So if I click into like any one of the nodes, you could see that I have a preview of my data here. So that is already very easy to understand, right? I could see a preview of my data, and there's like a few settings here. So this one I'm not going to go through, but I'm going to go through the more important ones, which is data sample. This is the one that I use very often. So when we work like in a company, we know that it's not just like, oh, a few rows of data, right? It could be 100, 200,000, or even like million rows of data. So when they load the preview, it might be a little slow if you don't do this data sample. So that's why I usually like to specify the number of rows like that, and then you just sorry, there's a bit of a delay, but yeah, you just type the number of rows you want. But for the purpose of today, I'm just going to use automatic lah. So automatic, they also create data samples for you. So if they see like you have a lot of data, rows of data, then they'll just do it for you lah. If you don't want that, you could do maximum right here, but it's lower. And we have this tab here called changes. So actually in this input node, you could see right here, is there a delay? Okay, yeah. I could also manipulate my columns here already, right? I could create a filter. Let's say I want the category, okay lah, don't want lah. Let's say I don't want this column. So I just click this and you could see remove field category right here. How to undo this? Just click the cross. Yeah, so this is the input node. And sorry, let me, okay, let me go back to this one. So that's the input node, but the second node is the clean node. So, okay, there you go. So the clean node is the most used node, and basically this is where your cleaning is done. So just now you saw that I removed the column in the input node, but this is not like a very common practice lah. People like to separate like input nodes and clean nodes. So all the cleaning ideally should be done in the clean node. So that's where you rename your fields, you change your data types, you filter, you group, or you can even create calculated fields like you do in Tableau Desktop. So just to give you an idea on this as well. So this is what a clean node looks like. Okay. Okay, there we go. So right here, you could see we have the same changes tab here, and you could see all the changes that you have done. So you can even undo it whenever you want. So this one is like a filter. It's a bit blurry, but yeah, it basically excludes nows. This is what it says. And you could do like different types of cleaning right here. And if you want to, you could always like, let's say we choose this. So it's a bit small, but it says change type sales to number. So if you find this column right here, you could see that if I want to change data type, I could click this and just change to the data type that I want. It's a bit of a delay. Uh, okay, it's okay. Yeah, let's move on first. So yeah, just know that you can click this thing to change your data type. Okay, and okay, and then that's the clean node, but that's not all. So you have other nodes as well. I don't know why it's not. Oh, there you go. So other than the clean node, you also have the union node right here. And a union node, like its name, is also like unions. It appends the rows together. And this is one of my favorite nodes because I think that it has one very cool thing that I'm going to show you later. But basically, if you know what union is, like it basically appends the rows together lah. So in this case, it appends 4 of these tables together into one table. So whenever we union something, right, we always want to make sure that the columns are the same, right? We want all 4 tables to have the same columns. But sometimes that's just not the case. And that's what I love about Tableau Prep. So they actually just show me like out of, if you cannot read this, says 1 mismatching field from 23 resulting field. So there's 23 columns here lah, and there's 1 mismatching column. So it actually tells me what the column is and which one has it. So the green color one, which is the remove nows, which is up here. Okay, it might take a while, but there's one of these table that has this column that other trees don't. So immediately, if you imagine if you have a lot of columns, you can immediately see like, oh, what's happening? Oh yeah, that's the green one right there. And then there's also like color coded here, so you can immediately see which tables have and which tables don't have. So that really helped me when I was working on my internship because there was a lot of columns. It was really messy, and I didn't know what was going on, but this really helped me. Yeah. Okay. The next one is okay. Is the join node. So yeah, I believe a lot of people use join in SQL or in Python, right? When you're doing data cleaning. So Tableau Prep also has this join node, and basically what it does is it combines 2 or more tables based on a common field lah. So this is also one of my favorite nodes because I think that Tableau Prep allows like everything to be done like so smoothly and everything in like one screen. So that's what I really like. So I'm gonna wait for it to load first. Okay, yeah, so if you click the join node, this is what you see, right? So first of all, you of course choose like, oh, what do I want to join on? So in this case, I join on product ID and order ID. And here's the fun part. So you know, we have like left join, right join. So with just one click, I can just switch from right join to inner join. And then I can just switch to like left join. Or if I don't even want any joins, which is gonna load, I could just unselect this middle part and you could see there's unmatched only. So I just think that like as someone who first started like data cleaning, right, I didn't know much, right? And I think the how to say the visualizations here really helped me to understand how join works and like what am I doing with my data. So especially when you're in work and then you have like some non-technical stakeholders, right, or your boss is not that technical, I think that this really helps them to understand what you're doing. Okay, so let me switch back. And yeah, you could see that here, it also shows you like how many rows are included and how many rows are excluded. Like imagine doing this in SQL, you have to write so many lines. And then like this one, you could just see in like one screen what's going on. And then you can even see the results on here, the join results here. And the red color one is the unmatched one. So you can even see which individual data points are joined, are like matched lah. Yeah, so this is also, one of the more interesting ones. And sorry. wait. Don't see my flight. Missing already. Wait. Why is it only my flight left? wait. Where did you go? Oh, there you go. Okay, sorry. Okay, now you know I'm on a flight tomorrow to Malaysia. So I'm Malaysian as well. Okay, aggregate node. So aggregate node, it like basically aggregates. So your group by, then you have your sum, average, your count. This is what aggregate node does. But there's actually a tip that my manager told me when I first joined the company is that you can also use aggregate node to bulk select columns. So I'm going to explain what I mean by that later. Okay. So if you click the aggregate node, this is what you see lah, right? So this is what you group by, and this is like the average sum. You could even select which one you want just by click. So that's very simple. But this is the example I want to show you. So this on the left here is all the columns that I have. And if I use a clean node, I have to like, okay, wait, I'll show you. If I use a clean node, right? And I don't want this column, then I just need to click this and remove. But imagine I have like 30 plus columns, and I only want 5. Then I just click 20 times and it's gonna look super messy on the changes part. So this is where you use aggregate node. That's where I use it. So yeah, so if I have like 20 or 30 plus columns, I just drag the columns that I want. And I even have lesser rows. So like the next part is gonna be like way smoother. It'll be like less slower when it loads. So that's like one of the tricks that my manager taught me that I think is very useful. And oh wait, why? Okay. Okay, and lastly, the output node. So the output node is basically your last node, your final step in the flow, and that's where you want to output as like different, like table extract, Excel, and CSV. So you could rename it. I'm not going to show you the output node since I keep switching back and forth. Yeah, but I have a funny story about this. So at first, when I first started using Tableau Prep, I didn't know what was Tableau extract. And every time I would finish a flow and I would output as Excel. And it would take 2 hours to run the flow. So every time I'm an intern, so I just click run flow and I wait. And then I wait for 2 hours, then I do something else. Then one day, a colleague told me that, hey, you know that you could use a Tableau extract, right? And then, because I was building Tableau dashboards, then I was like, okay. Then I ran with a Tableau extract. It took 5 seconds. And I was like, what have I been doing for the past 2 weeks? Yeah, so that's a funny story. So if you're still using Excel, like unless you want to validate data, that's where you output as Excel. But like if not, I think if you want to build dashboard, just output as Tableau extract. Yeah, don't be like me. Okay, and yeah, the next part is slides really. Okay, so yeah, so I went through some of the notes. Those are the ones that are more commonly used, and due to time constraints, I wish I could share more to you, but these are more notes and what they do. So we have like new rows, so you could add rows based on like your data. So if you want date, right, like how to say, like, oh, you want date in like, I want 2 days separate for each row, then you could use new rows, or you want like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then you could also use new rows. And for pivot, if you don't know what pivot is, it's basically like converting your rows to columns or your columns to rows. So that's also available in like Pandas and SQL, I think. Yeah. And then for script, it's like you integrate external scripting language like your R and Python into your Tableau Prep flow. So this is when you want to use multiple tools. And for prediction, it applies the Tableau Einstein discovery predictions into your data. So that's useful if you want to make predictions. And lastly, you could also insert existing prep flow as a reusable module. So you just save it as a flow. And then if you click insert, the whole thing will just paste inside. I'm not going to show you because I think it's going to be delayed here. Yeah, but if you add it, it's going to have, it's going to show the whole flow. So you can reuse your flow if you want to. Okay, so what I like about Tableau Prep, so I mentioned a lot of things that I like, but the first thing is it's visual and intuitive. So it's, first of all, friendly for users who don't code or use SQL, which was me. Like it's very user-friendly for a student like me. And second thing is, I think one of the most important ones. So executives can quickly grasp the full data journey at a glance. So my manager previously, he is from a business background. And yeah, he doesn't really care what I do with the data, but he wants to know the flow. So what I do is I just show him the entire interface that I showed you just now. And he knows, oh, I'm joining this, I'm unioning, agak correct lah, right? So then he can pass already. So I think that it saves, and it's very suitable for executives where they don't have a lot of time and stuff like that. And then every step shows a live preview. So it's like making my logic very easy to follow. When I code, sometimes I get confused and stuff. So I think this rarely happens in Tableau Prep, so which is a great thing. And then easy to use and reusable. So yeah, you can just drag, drop, and clean, which is the whole idea of Tableau essentially, right? And yeah. And then if oh yeah, live previews really help me to validate as well, especially when you see joining, there's like colored red for you. So it's very user friendly if you want to validate your transformation as you go. And also build once and reuse across projects, right? You could save it as prep, you could insert flow, or you could just reuse the same thing over and over again. So that's the beauty of Tableau Prep. And lastly, of course, it integrates well with Tableau. So yeah, it outputs as a .hyper file. And then if you use the .hyper file in your dashboard, it actually helps the performance, if you didn't know that. And yeah. And if you're, you know, in your company and you want to use like, oh, your data cleaning and data visualization in like one tool, not really one tool, but like you want to use Tableau for it, then you can use Tableau Prep and like that Tableau Desktop, for example, for your dashboarding and data cleaning. Okay, and this is an example of what I did in my internship. So yeah, I had like a few countries lah. Then they send me data. Then like different countries have different way of cleaning things. So I had to create like a lot of flows. Yeah, so they require separate prep steps. And it's a lot, but I feel very fulfilled when I see this lah. Okay, and yeah. Okay, it's taking a while. But yeah, oh, I also want to mention the reason why I didn't use like 5 files for each of the countries was because like I didn't want to open 5 files when I want to run the entire flow. So that's why everything is in one interface, if you're wondering. Okay, so what I experienced using Tableau Prep. So what went well was, yeah, the clear visual logic made it very easy to manage different countries because I was managing 5 countries. In different data formats. And the insert flow really helped me because some of the flows are like very repetitive lah. So I just insert flow and I change a few things, then I could reuse it again. And then, yeah, it's a scalable and low code workflow for a non-technical audience, which is most of my team. So when I explain, like they ask me, oh, what's the difference between left join and right join? And then, you know, I just show them the diagram. So it's very easy, yeah. But one challenge I face is similar to what we said. So as my flow grew larger, I realized some lags and sometimes, yeah, but that maybe because I was using the 2023 version back then, because it was previous internship. So performance could be better in the latest release. I don't know, but you guys can try by yourself lah. Okay, and yeah, lastly, you should consider using Tableau Prep if you want to clean and transform your messy Excel and CSV data with minimal coding. And if you prefer a visual step-to-step approach, or if you want to present to non-technical stakeholders what you're doing. And lastly, you need repeatable and automated flows to feed into Tableau dashboards, right? If you're using Tableau for your dashboards. Yeah, so the next slide is thank you. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Right. Thank you, Kayleen. I think this is very interesting because Tableau Prep works very well in the ecosystem. It's within the whole ecosystem. So you can imagine that if you have, like what Kayleen has demonstrated, multiple different files that come from like different sales offices and you want to combine them, you can also put that entire flow on Tableau Server or Tableau Cloud and have it run on the schedule. So you could essentially, you know, put your files in a, you know, Google Drive or something and have it refresh maybe once a day, once a week, and that would push out a output for Tableau Extract, which is the hyper file, and then your dashboard can actually consume that. So it's also very replicable and scalable because you can track every step of your way. If anything goes wrong, you know exactly how to troubleshoot, right? So there's also one thing a lot of analysts face when they work with Excel files is that they don't know which step they failed at, right? You make so many changes, you do so many formulas, you copy and paste as values, and you lose the entire lineage of things, right? So this is a perfect example of how you would use Tableau Prep. Any questions for Kayleen?
No, because I think maybe I think my previous company, they don't want me to predict. They don't believe in that. Yeah, but now I'm in a new internship and they asked me to use Python to predict. So I didn't have the chance yet, but I think that it's an interesting suggestion to for my manager to use Tableau Prep predict. Oh, I think like
I'm I've never used Tableau Prep before.
I think you're talking about the Einstein predict, right? So that model comes from the Salesforce platform that you build, train, and bring it down to Tableau. So I guess maybe that's why her company that she's interning may not have that piece. So using the flexibility, they use the open source Python, yeah. Yeah, so that's using the script function. Yeah. Any more questions? Okay, then we'll go to the last section of the day. Phyllis will talk you guys through her favorite tips from Tableau Conference.
Okay, I will be just like breezing through very quickly because it's already like 8:50 p.m. Okay, I've actually done like a dashboard which I've published to my Tableau public portfolio. So if you guys want, you all can take a look. I won't be doing a demo on it lah. Okay, but I've actually used ChatGPT to create this map of how TC 2025 look like. So I had the privilege of actually attending TC 25 this year. And okay, while I'm not a comic artist, I didn't draw all these by hand. I used ChatGPT to prompt using my own pictures from the event, from the conference. So if you actually play around with the dashboard and you hover over the pictures, I did insert some like real life actual pictures of the conference. Okay, I think about what stood out to me was that this year I saw a lot of like robotics. I didn't really see this last year. And as usual, the decor, very nice. In fact, actually, if you do have the chance to go to TC25, right, it actually feels like, it looks like almost like a carnival. You know, there's a lot of like very nice photo taking opportunities there. Okay, so back to my favorite tips, I'll just be showing three lah. Okay, the first one that I have is called the variable offset labels. Okay, this was like a sharing by the Flair twins. I think the segment was called Cool Tips or something, and it's also recorded on Salesforce Plus. So I think what I like about it is he actually addressed one issue that a lot of us have which is when you actually create bar charts and you have like very long text on the axis. You see that it is like all bunched up together and it doesn't look as aesthetic and nice. So what he did right was he create a dual axis chart, and you notice that the solution is okay, it's very 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 minor, but you see like there are some like short lines, long lines, short line, long lines. The concept behind it is he created an index to identify what are the alternate rows. Like if it's an even number, then short line, odd number, long line, something like that. Okay, then you have to do a bit of how do I say? It's actually a calculated field where if it's odd and then you input a figure, a number. So that's how you generate the height of that bar at the bottom. And then you just change the size to the smallest. So that is a very thin bar. Okay, and if you're wondering how you get this into like 2 rows, it's actually another calculated field where you just add a new line. Okay, I'm not going to demo this, but you can feel free to take a look at the dashboard and you can download it and reverse engineer it. Okay, then the second is actually my favorite because I was very mind blown. Okay, I always have this issue with the ABCs in your text tables, and I can never seem to get rid of it. And personally, a hack that I always do is I will just create a shape, and then I'll make it like white or what, and then I'll make it very very small until you cannot see it. Okay, but then the Flair twins, they actually have this hack, and it's a very weird hack where you just follow this, you just type Control Command right, and then you use your cursor, you drag it to the left. Okay, I wish this is a demo. Okay, then you control command, then you left 5 times. And for some reason, that column will just disappear. And that is what happened. So, okay, this is also a recording on Salesforce Plus. Okay, so you can take a look. Yeah.
The concept of how this works, right? This is like probably like the most interesting one, and it's also my favorite one. So the concept how it works, right, is Tableau has this thing called spacing, right? So you can adjust the space of the bars and the columns itself. So the control left and the control right actually changes the size of the bars, and because what the flash strings does is that they shift this sizing of the ABC to all the way to the right, right? And then it still has a little bit of double lines. So when you kind of adjust the sizing, that space in between gets smaller and smaller, and eventually just disappear. But it's still there, but it's just very minuscule, so you can't really see it. So it's a very, very interesting trick, kind of like a cheat code in like the old Super Nintendo days.
Okay, actually, this is a very used, I'm actually using this right now for work. Okay. Okay, then the last one is, okay, not by Flash Teams, it's actually by PlayFed Data, this guy called Ethan. Okay, I thought this was a very cool trick because I have never used this feature in Tableau, which is that, you know, sometimes when you have like for example this chart at the top, and then your boss is asking you, okay, so how do I know what is really high, what is really low? So this Ethan's sharing is how to identify outliers, and his solution was a very simple one where he just used the distribution band under the analytics pane, and then he used the standard deviation option. He just typed -2 and 2. So why these two numbers is because -2 and +2 standard deviation from the mean, right, is where you get 95% of your data. Okay, so so when you select that, you will actually draw this reference band over here, and that's when you can see any point that is exceeding this -2 and 2, that is your outlier. Okay, and I was a bit extra, so I also did this. This 68% of data is -1 and 1 standard deviation. Okay, so that's all I have. Okay, yeah. Okay, so now Wenbin also has some tips that he'll be sharing.
Thank you. Yeah, so just really fast, 2 tips. Okay, so this is from Tableau Conference 25. There's a segment called Tips Battle, where, you know, creators and authors have 1 minute to pitch what are their best tips, right? And I think the idea is that, hey, a lot of these tips you don't have to go through super complicated like calculated fields or actions. You can do it in a very simple manner. One of it is actually clustered techniques. It's a very simple, clustered bar chart. Very simple, right? We want to add more white space to make sure that to make it more readable between the different categories. What one of these authors did was to actually add a subtotal, hide the subtotal, remove the label, and you're done. So things like this, very minuscule, but can improve the user experience of your charts by a lot. So we also added a hyperlink to this Tableau Viz, and you guys can have a look and reverse engineer. So what we mentioned about Salesforce Plus, you can if you click on this link later in the dashboard, you can go into the recording itself. And then one more that I want to highlight, right? So we like text tables. We also like heat maps, but sometimes it's a bit not very readable, right? One of the best ways to combine them is to have like a KPI grid, right? So what this is just like a shape, right? You added a shape, but you minimize, or rather you tweak the axes. So you have a custom axis, and then you hide the axis, and that's how you minimize the shape. But the idea is that you have the color coding as well. So in this case, purple represents year-on-year increase, yellow represents year-on-year decrease. So you're getting the best of both worlds, the color indication from a heat map, as well as the very structured format of a text table. Yeah, so without further ado, these are the 2 links that we have. On the left-hand side, this is the dashboard by Phyllis. And on the right-hand side, that is the dashboard you saw just now by Brenda. Yeah, and then you guys can have a scan, and I'll pass it back to Louis.
Thank you, Wenbin. So the slides that you see today will be shared through our WhatsApp group. So don't worry about not remembering the links and everything. We'll also share the links to the Salesforce Plus videos, so you can actually take a look. So some of it you really need to see it to really appreciate how it's done. For example, the special combo attack. You need to hit control left and control right for a couple of times. That one you really need to see to understand how it does. So our next meetup will probably be in August, September. But we'll post up as soon as we have the dates. So thank you again, everyone, for coming today. I hope you guys learned a lot from the sessions from Shazeera, from Kayleen, as well as the tips from Phyllis and Wenbin. So thank you.